Alright, welcome back to part 2 of the Tr6 engine build. So, I have it here still sitting still, it's still draining coolant. I just started to remove the clutch and the flywheel and all the coolant still kept pouring out, so I ended up, to be honest, stopping. So I could clean up the mess. It's still not great either. But what I want to do is I want to get this onto an engine stand. It's the better way to do it, because we're going to have a way of taking the head off. I'm going to show you that because I've gone through the hard way and left it and tried to smash it off, and it doesn't work out. There is an easier way of doing it that makes life a lot easier. You still need a hammer and all that, but like it's so much easier. Anyway, so what we'll do is we'll put on. Now, most times when I put engines on the engine stand, I usually leave the flywheel on, and usually I bolt through here and I use these points. However, since I'm stripping the engine down, I have two choices. I can leave it on and then still take everything out and take this off at the very end, or I can take it off now. So I'm going to take it off now, and we're going to bolt the stand to the block itself. Right. So I'm going to take these off. For most of the engine, just to be honest, it's a 20 volt impact drill. We'll do most of it. I'll say most of it. Some of it you may still need a bigger drill or so on. Now it's always good to take these out and bag them, what goes where, unless you're changing them or putting them in. If you weren't building your engine and you happen to be doing this, well then, like what I do anywhere else in the car, when I take a bolt out and something comes out, I put this back into it so I don't lose it, and I know where it goes. Off comes our rear plate. If anyone didn't ever know, and I've never used this myself, it's actually marked up here for top dead center. There's actually a strike on the plate that meant to represent when it's top dead center. So I'm not sure where or how you use it, but I know it is marked up there. I know in the book it mentions about finding this mark for top dead center, but it seems a bit odd. How would you know you're at top dead center? There's no other markings on it to follow. So I don't know. Anyway, maybe it's to help you know which side of the plate is the right way around on the outside. So, my head's in the way. Alright, so now this is off. What I can do is my engine stand, I can get this and now actually start to put it on. So, we'll go over these. These are not long enough, so I'm going to have to take these 3 studs off. So, great tool for getting them off if you ever have one, is one of these. Grab one of these. They're great for getting studs out. There's 2 different sizes, and it's usually a 1/2 inch connection, a 1/2 inch drive. Great little tool. Just be mindful of getting your finger stuck in it. The amount of times I've wedged my finger in there. It's just pressure. They're just simply pressure fitting when it goes around. And like I said, when it comes to the head, I want to use this tool to do the exact same thing. Now if I'm putting these studs in, again, I mark them, I'll put them in a little baggie and make note that they go back in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my stand, and I'm going to bolt it into here, and then have 2 coming through the end and bolted in there as well. So to hold it on while I strip the engine down. You can always get two nuts to get these things out, but to be honest, this way is a lot easier. I've had these bolts snap in half on me, and that's the only thing to be mindful of when you're taking these out, is if it snaps, well, you're not exactly in a good spot. Not enough yet. Alright. Cool, it's still dripping out the front. Okay, so now I can get my stand. Now to figure out which is the better way to do it. Man, it's going the tall way or this way? I have to figure out where it's gonna, what's the best way to do it for it to line up. So probably like that. Standard bolts, hopefully they're long enough. Yep. Okay. Ooh. There you go. I should have made this into a high speed. This engine cranks is no different than the rest of them, straight out of Princess Auto. Oh, look, the cheapy trays are going by again. If I don't have enough room, because this block might stop. Some of the holes in the back of the block go right through. Some don't. Some stop at a certain point. If I believe that it's too much, I'll just put a nut on the end of it, and that'll take up the slack. Or more washers, either or. Find out if the last one fits. Could do all that, and the last one just won't line up because I hate these. Only some go sideways, some go angled. Oh, okay. Now I'm going to tighten these up. The only good thing about taking the flywheel off is that it makes sure that the crank comes out pretty easy. Yes, it's, they're hidden in there, but you can still get to them with a spanner. It's not the worst. So. Okay, that's that on. Alright, now I can jack it up and put on my stand. hopefully went high enough, which I should have done. I need a bolt to stop it from moving around. So, need a bolt to go in the top here. So she's on there. We'll bolt in, and hopefully she comes down okay. Alright, let's throw her down and make sure she holds weight. Okay, so now it's on. I'm going to strip the engine crane off, put it away. I'm going to wipe the floor back. Wipe the floor back. I'll wipe the floor down, and then we'll come back and we'll start disassembling the engine. So, see you in a minute. All right, so ready to start stripping it. I've no particular order I really do it in, other than I like to get the top off first and the head before I take the sump off. It doesn't make a difference. And if you can get the sump off without inverting it, great, because as soon as you invert it, you always get coolant stuck in the pistons, which you'll see. So as soon as you invert it, it ends up going everywhere. So that's why you need a bucket. There's no great or easy way of doing this without making a mess. You're making a mess either way, some way, shape, or form. So make sure you have a lot of rags and buckets to catch liquid. My floor in here in the garage is terrible. I'm looking forward to mopping it and cleaning it because it's all the stains of the oil, coolants, the gasket sealers, stuff everywhere. And then add any gunk that comes off this that's been gathered for years, where it's just materialized onto it. But have a look at your engine as well when you're taking it apart. So for me, I look across and I see that it's not too bad here, but it's soaking wet here. So that gives me an indication that if it's not the gasket, that the head itself is warped. That gives me an idea where I'm looking at. We can do a test before you bring it to the machine shop to see, which is you basically paint the bottom of it and run it on a flat surface and smooth it across some sandpaper, and you'll see where it's waved on the actual block. And you can sand that out yourself. If it's not much, you can literally sand and shave the bottom of that head yourself, no problem. I've often done it. But we're going to get it sent away because we're going to get it done anyway. The bottom of them is going to be machined. Oh, look. So, just took this off. Spot the mistake. All right. Straight away we spot the mistake. One, they've used the wrong gasket for the top. We've the wrong gasket. He's used the one that's for the standard recessed one. And as you can see, it's basically pushed in and moved. And even here, like you can even see there's a gap. So oil is just gonna seep out of there and just go everywhere. So look at the gap down this end. So it's pretty bad. So yeah, always make sure you use the right one. So for this one, because it's the aftermarket aluminium, it should be a really flat. You can use cork, or you can use the cork or the rubber one. I don't mind either, but make sure you have the correct one. I prefer the cork. I've always been that way. I just like them. They're a better seal, a better crush. Some may like the rubber one or the latex, whatever it's actually made of. So everyone's to themselves, and I've nothing against it. Just make sure you have the right equipment for it. So before I take this off again, before I just remove it, I'm looking for any discrepancies within the engine. So I want to make sure that all the actual push rods are connected and not broken, because that will have a knock-on effect when I go to put it back together again. I want to see is there anything missing, anything that looks out of place that shouldn't be there, that I know what to address further down the line. Other than the oil. Like if I look at this, that's pretty gunky. It should be a lot cleaner, and you can see like obviously a lot of air was getting in there because it's the way the oil is dried out, which means, like I said, like the gasket there, the hot air from the engine must have been getting in here and just drying out the oil. So it should be a little cleaner than this. It almost looks from this side, I know you can't really see it, it almost looks like it's rusted out a bit. So like rusty springs. So all right, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our 6 studs we're gonna take, and we're gonna take our rocker off. I'm standing on everything here. Ooh, wrong socket. For this, be mindful because the washers on these are they're in a certain size. I've replaced them, but you don't fit as good. So just be careful you don't lose them down the block that they fall down there. Is there a set order to take these off on? I'm not aware of it. I have a little order. I do when I'm putting it back on, but taking it off, I'm not too worried about it because it's coming off. So I'm going to make sure to keep these. At the end of the day, you can change these nuts. They're all the same. These ones you can change. Just be, like I said, just keep an eye on the washers. So, all right. I'll put them there so don't lose them. And the rocker comes off. So one thing to check when you're taking your rocker off is that the rocker doesn't fall apart. So there is a screw in the bottom end here that keeps it all together. So make sure that's there. And again, what we're going to do is clean it up. We're going to check the under it and make sure all the balls here are not flattened out. That everything moves because they are spring loaded. So they should move, and the pedestals. So like you can soak this in a number of different things. I like to heat up Varsol and leave it in it, or even you can get a all-purpose cleaner and boil it and take it out, but just make sure you spray it with a WD-40, otherwise it will oxidize. But a good Varsol. And again, check your lobes as well. You're checking for any real bad flat spots and any cracks. But you have to clean it first. So yeah, that's that. Now, if you were just stripping your engine and you were going to put it together again, you'd keep your push rods in the same order which they came out, because they would have fitted or made their own groove into the tappets or followers, whatever you want to call them, in the bottom. Because this is getting new ones, they're just going to come out and go in the bin. So, but inspect them. You want to still inspect them when they come out, just to make sure, because I'm looking at the color of some of this, like right here. I don't know if you can see that. It's gray. Gray means one of two things. Either the zinc, and it's the zinc that's gone around, or else there's somewhere in here some metal is being crushed to a degree that the metal has now liquefied and it's mixed in with the oil and it's gone around. But there's a fair bit of it. Like all the way across the posts, there's a fair bit of silver. It doesn't always mean anything bad, but like I said, it's the zinc. The zinc has metal fragments in it, like so that will do that as well. So don't automatically presume something's wrong. All right, they go in the bin. Now I need a rag to wipe my hands with. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all the studs that hold the cylinder head on. So that one, the little impact gun won't do. I need either a torsion bar or a air compressed impact gun, like for wheels. But what I'll do is, once I get them off, I can remove these 3 studs. I don't have to yet, but I will once it comes off, because I don't send it in with these on. They will all come off, and these as well. You can remove all these as well and use the same tool. Just take them all off and take as much off the head as you can. Again, be mindful to see how straight they are in the way of that. See if there's any markings. When you're taking, when you're taking anything off and it slides over a bar, if it keeps getting stuck or wedged, these can bend easy. Be amazed, even the same studs that hold the cylinder head on bend and warp. You'll see when it comes off that you get brittle, they pit, and when you pit, you get stuck. So always check everything before, even if you're getting rid of it, just check, because you want to see what's been going on in the engine. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it on some high speed, and I'm going to remove all these and get ready to take the cylinder head off, and we'll get a look in to see what's going on with the pistons and how bad they are or how good they are, and see if anything else sits out, and we can look at the bottom of the valves as well to see how good this head has been operating. All right, so roll on some high speed, I guess. Okay, welcome back. So the engine is looking pretty stripped at this stage. So I took a lot of the stuff off, drained the oil, and obviously cool. I took off the front timing chain cover, the chain, all the water pump housing and everything, all had to come off. So what I've done up here, well, I removed the studs, and if any of you have any, buy one of these tools. They're great, absolutely great. They work on two different sizes. They're a 1/2-inch drive. They work on two different sizes, and they're for removing studs. Pretty good tool. I use it all the time. And when I do here, I have a bit of a rule. Is when I'm taking the studs out, because the treads are exposed, and the last thing you want to do is, you do not want to use this where the treads are, because like I see, it's ribbed. So obviously when you put pressure on it, it digs in, and then you get the torque on it. However, if you put it on treads, what happens? Well, you rip the treads, you destroy them, and it's no good to you. So for me, I don't know if you can see it in the high speed, you may have not noticed it. If I'm putting it on it and I go to turn it and it goes pretty quick and it goes easy and it goes loose, great, I'll do it by hand, and I know that's okay, because one, it's straight enough. Two is it's not seized in there, and three is I haven't damaged the treads because I only put a little bit of pressure on the top. However, if I do get some other ones and they are tough to get off, there was one in particular that I really had to, I really had to go get an extended bar to get the force to go off. Them ones I automatically throw out. And the reason why is, you could say, oh well, maybe you just got a little heated and got seized in the block. Well, yes, that is true. But with all the pressure I put on the treads on the top end, now I can't rely on getting a good torque, especially for the head, because with the treads now being compromised, you may end up just ringing it. So it's not worth taking that chance. The last thing is, if you have to put that much pressure on it, there's always the possibility that it's actually warped, which means the stud itself that comes from the block up has a warp in it, and every time it goes around it's pushing against the wall of the cylinder head, hence why it's making it tough to get out. So we don't want bent, warped, or very pitted, because you do come out awfully pitted studs. If you're doing your engine build, don't get me wrong, you can replace them all. I try not to do it. I only replace what needs to be done. So again, I work on that rule. I clean them up. If I clean them up and there's a lot of pitting, I cast them out, because again, any pitting on it will only get moisture in there, and it basically fuses itself to the cylinder head, and again, it becomes hard to get out. So I have so many of them from all these engines that I've unfortunately have been non-rebuildable, to say the word. So yeah. Anyway, so great tool. If you can get one, go get one. It's not just for engine builds, like it's for any stud they take out, and they're great. Because you can go, most of the time I use this one, because there's no studs really that big, but you can go up, that looks like a ½ inch itself, so not many studs are that big. But great tool. Okay, so now we have it off. Now we have to take the cylinder head off. So obviously, even though with all the studs gone, it's not going to slide off, because most likely the heat has heated up the head gasket, which is now probably fused it together. Any silicone or anything that was bonded in there or sealing it in there now still has to be broken as well. So how are we going to get it off? Well, you have two ways. The old way I used to do it, and I didn't care about it, was I'd get a piece of wood and smash upwards into here to try pull up. But then again, I didn't have all the studs off, so I didn't have much of an option. Now what I do instead is I use one of these. So it's just a scraper really, but it's bent at the end, which is good, and obviously you can hang it on the wall. Narrow enough edge on it, very narrow. So I'm not exactly sure what it's for. It's just it says it's a 9-inch flat pry bar, but you wouldn't be prying too much with that. I think it bend. But the only reason I have it is because I can use the edge, and I can start at the corner and just get enough to crack and break the seal and work my way across. When it gets good, I can actually go this all the way across as well. I'll go right all the way across. But just be mindful. If you go all the way across, you always have a chance of hitting something, i.e. like the top of the piston, edging one of the corners if it goes at a slight angle when one side is up and one side is down. So just be mindful of that. So we're going to start at a corner each, enough just to crack it, and hopefully take it off, and we'll see what the head looks like. Now, I normally try to go to opposite corners, but this one has, because of the mount for the eye, the hook, it actually has more of a surface than this end. And I said there's a lot of, I don't know what it is. It's probably just mud, but honestly, it looks like copper grease to me. And this is where I need my bucket. So, obviously the last of the coolant is coming out, but look how easy it is now to break the seal and get the head to move. And I don't have to lift it in the air. I just have to slide it off, basically. So I gave up bashing the life out of it to get it off. So I don't need to go in far, because most of the sealant is going to be around the edge, so that's all I'm trying to do is break that seal at the edge. Pretty much ready to come off. It's going to go right around it though, make sure it's... The good thing about doing it this way, and again, this is just my way of doing it, with no pressure or any of the studs, if they're warped, you're not trying to hit hard, which means you're less likely of putting any grooves or gashes in the actual block or the bottom of the cylinder head. all I have to do is wear off the gasket. There we go. And she is free. Okay. Let's get her on the ground and we'll go have a peek at it and see what it looks like. Okay. So, yeah, it doesn't look too clean, does it? It's actually not as bad as it looks. Like, obviously all the coolant gets all over the place, so it always looks worse. But what I'm looking for straight away is any indication something was wrong. First thing you know, if anything was ever wrong, and I did have an engine, and I took a picture and I put it up, and the Chef Tush had the quick eyes, where number 1 and 6 were at different heights to know something was wrong. The connecting rod is completely blown. Because 1 and 6 go the same. 2 and 5, 3 and 4 are actually all travel in the same way. Don't you wonder, well, if it only goes in 3, why all these different? Well, the cam is different, but the crankshafts go in 2s. So 1, 6, 2, 5, 3, 4 always travel the same. So if any one of these, and then either these 2 or so on, are other way around out of sync, you know something's seriously wrong in there. Other than that, what I'm really looking for is the crown. Like how any big chunks stick out. It's pretty brittle in there, which is, I'm not surprised, but it's actually pretty clean around the outsides, considering. Like all the carbon build is right in the middle. Pretty much almost right in the middle. That one's actually pretty clean. That one almost has none. This one, number 3, has a fair bit of carbon. That's probably about, I'd say about almost 50% covered. This one, again, when I say the carbon, the crustation is right here. The rest of it is actually pretty okay. So you can see most of the banging went on this side. Number 1 obviously took the brunt. That's only 80-90% crusty. So number 1 did a lot of the work. But what we'll do is when we take it out and clean it, again, any other obvious signs, and it's hard to see with this light is, we'll look for any black line on the wall, the cylinder walls, any line at all, and that will tell us if a ring is gone and the oil was coming right up, because we'll just simply leave it a streak. Simple as that. So we can turn the engine around, but looking at this, none stick out. Okay. I mean, there's something like that here, but like it'd be pretty obvious. I had a video and I take a picture of it before in another video, and it's a black line going right all the way down, and that will tell you when the that'll tell you when you had a fail of a piston ring. I'll just let them know. So other than that, it's actually not too bad. All our cam followers go in here, or our lifters, tappets, whatever you want to call them. So many different names. Everything has different names. But yeah, it's awful crispy around the outside as well. So I think what was going on here is the head. Obviously, this has burned a lot of oil. I think the head itself was warped, and it's allowing the compression and everything to come over and get stuck in between the canals and channels. So that's my guess. Again, I won't know. I'm not annoyed about it. I can look at all I want and it doesn't say anything until I send this to the machine shop. Cylinder head. Tell you what though, it's like, believe it or not, it's not the worst. It looks okay. At least they're consistent. Like they're actually all even. Good, bad, or in between. At least they're even. But you can see like things like this, like all the gunk and everything is getting into the canals, blocking it. Obviously that stops the flow that goes through it. And if it's blocking the flow, it's like an artery of a body. Bits can break off and go and get jammed somewhere else, and then it causes a problem. Like look at that. Look, it's full of gunk. So most of you get that gunk is usually where the coolant and the oil is mixing, and it's starting to solidify in the cylinder head. So that's what I'm saying. The seal has gone, so all the oil and coolant going around are starting to blend together and create this, and then over time it just, yeah, gives up. But overall, from first indication, the head doesn't look that bad. I mean, there's a lot of crisping on the intakes. So usually a good cylinder head, they'll come out, they'll be clean, but how do I say, like browny color, but clean. This has a lot of crustation on it, a lot of layering like sand. So again, that could be just everything mixing together between the fuel and oil and everything. But the only way I look at it is that at least they're even. So, which is good. Be better than 2 looking like that and the 4 looking completely different. Well, something was wrong then if they're all up. So at least you're all working consistent, whatever was going on there. Anyway, that's really it. So the head, like I said, dog walks to the machine shop. The block will go off to the machine shop as well. We're going to get it bored out, and just what I'm looking at, if anybody ever wants to know, this is a CC. So CC 82646. Alright, so anyone would realize this is a early model engine because it's a CC, but it's a recessed head. So, and I'm guilty of this, I didn't realize it until recently, is that the very late 72s have a CC, and they can have a short block actually. So they're exactly like a 73 engine, like recessed and everything, but they're actually a CC. So the recessed, or the late models, if you really want to call it, actually don't start to CF. I think it's like 1250, some of that. But yeah, if you do have a 72, just be mindful. The early 72s are a non-recessed block, most likely a long crank. The later ones are a short block. This head's the confusing part. Short block, recessed, but the head has still the early ones. So the exhaust valves are the big ones. So the 1.25 exhaust valves compared to the 1.19. When from CF 1250 or whatever it is, or 12500, the valves become smaller. So there is an in-between engine, and I only found that out recently because I was ordering parts and I got a little confused, and like I gave them the wrong valves, and there was the exact same thing. It was a 72. It was like, but it was actually a CF, and a very early CF, like CF, like a 4-digit number. But I ran the early valves because I didn't realize that from 72 to like late 72, probably to I want to say mid 73, ran the short block, recessed, the exact same as a late model, but just different valves in the head. The head was almost like an early head. That's why it actually has a different number. There's 3 numbers on it. I think that ends like 88 from off the top of my head. So, yeah, that's it. That's all I have here for now. I'm now going to take and strip the rest. And look at that. Look at that. Oh my God, look at that. Look at all that. My favourite. Look at all that silicone. Yummy. Other than that, yeah, when it goes, we'll obviously, I can't touch it now because of the gloves. We'll get it cleaned off, and we'll look for any tags, markings, like I said, stamps. And again, like I said, you can't see them now, but it's always helpful when you take the pistons out, if you're not sure if they're original or not, is watch out for your markings here. So there's 2 sets of markings. I know I have it in the video before. I believe well, I'm going to say it's either one or the other. It either has a stamp here for each cylinder, or you'll have the 3 stamps here for these 3, and 3 stamps right here for these 3. So I believe the other engine I'm building, that's the one that actually has AAA and then AAA. So you know what was the original size of the actual cylinder when I was bored. So yeah, just another piece of information. Alright, that's it. I'm going to continue on stripping this, so time for some high speed, and that's it, roll on with it. Alright, here we go. Okay, so I took the oil pump out and I was just having a look at it, and everything seems okay. Like, this is loose here. It's not meant to be, but to be honest, it's not going to do anything. Shouldn't do. If it was really loose and I was letting air in, it can have a knock on if the oil is not above it, because otherwise we'll just go around the circles and you won't get as good as a lift, so the oil pressure will be low. But there's something I want to talk to you about the importance of an oil pump. There's two types of oil pump. And I say two types, I don't mean this is classified as a later model where you went with this sort of microphone effect with the conical strainer compared to the early one that had like a vacuum cleaner head, like the flat surface of the strainer on the inside. It's irrelevant which one you use, because if you get a new kit, you're going to get one of these anyway. So it's not that part. Don't worry about that. These are pretty much all the same. As long as the strainer is free, that's okay. So I keep that. However, here is where we can run into a problem. So if you understand what way the oil pump works is, the oil pump sits in, it's recessed here, it sits in a section in the block, it sits in, it's supposed to be all tight, and then your distributor will sit onto the, distributor, your timing gear goes onto this, and then your distributor goes into the timing gear. However, if you are getting a new one and you get a new one, swap for swap, like take one out, put one in. However, for us and other people who collect a lot of parts, we keep some of these things. So I've kept many oil pump, I have them in there. I keep the shaft, I keep the casing, and whatever, the barrel, if you want to call it, this section of it. But I look at it all, and like if I found a lot of score in here, I'll get rid of it. I'll chuck it out. If there's no score at all, I'll hang on to it. Because you know what? Maybe I'm working on somebody's engine and they want a cheaper build and they just want to replace the oil pump. Or take it out and look at it, and it's like for the oil pressure. We have a look at it, pop it out, it's all scored, okay, and I'll swap the oil pump with another one. But here's where the problem is. This barrel will go in. This shaft goes in, it's all as one. And when it flattens in, it is nice and it's flush, yeah? But there is two lengths of shafts. There's actually two different shafts. There's one long shaft and one short shaft. Let me show you. Here, I just went and got it, is another shaft. Looks identical. However, if we look at the end, it's actually shorter. And I hope you can see that because I'm looking at the camera. It's shorter by about, what would it be? 1/8 of an inch? A couple of mil? 5 mil? But it's shorter. So let me put this one in and you'll see what it looks like. Goes in fine. However, as you can see, it's not exactly flush. See? It's countersunk. It's the same as the other way around. If your oil pump happens to be a shorter one and everything else is short and you happen to change it for a longer shaft, well then you're going to end up with the opposite problem where if you put it in, it will sit up like this. It will sit up by a small amount. Oh, sorry, I'm out of the camera view. It will sit up. So bear that in mind when you're doing an oil pump. Is before you install it, make sure when you put it in and hold it with the shaft down that it is actually flush. Otherwise, I've done it. I have done it. I've put it in and I went to do it and realized that doesn't look right, and it was like this. It was in. If it's in, will it work? Well, it should do, but there's always the possibility that it will skip because you're not getting full coverage. Like, it makes a difference. Plus, it can also make a difference when you put pressure on this, is that this will actually might push down a bit as well. And then everything's all screwed up with your timing gear and everything. So, would you want to run that risk? Oh no, like if you want to take that chance, it may work, but yeah, I wouldn't. So just bear that in mind when you're dealing with oil pumps, that there is two different shafts. The shaft itself is actually the same length. Like the shaft, it's just this part, whatever you want to call this section of it, is, like, I don't know if you can see there. Oh, hang on, let me hold it together. Can you see? if it zooms in. See the difference in length? So just bear that in mind when you're doing oil pumps, that you check it before you install it, and make sure you install it and make sure it all sits. Because that's, like I said, that's that one is has a seating on it, and it sits in here. And I've had people who put them in, and it didn't seat in correctly, and when I bolted in, there was a gap, and because there was a gap, the timing gear went around, but it didn't spin the oil pump, and you got no oil pressure and blew the engine up. So it has happened, and I know someone who has happened too, that they didn't install this correctly, and it blew up the engine. So that's why it's important when you turn it for the first time to watch your oil pressure, because if this is not working, you're not going to get any pressure. Alright, that's it. Continuing on to disassembly. Other things to watch out for again, keep out for your markings on the engine. Check for the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 on the sides. Check your, if you're taking it apart, check your mains that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 and they're facing the same direction. The numbers look the same. You match, they're not turn around. And then when we take the pistons out, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to check, there should be a number inscribed on here. Some people put dots on them. You tap it with a little punch and put a dot. That's fine. As long as they match with the same with the crank, that's fine. You should match 1 to 6, be in order. And so when you take one out, I always put one bolt back in, so I don't get the cap for it, if you want to call it a cap, mixed up with a different one. Because not all of them are marked clearly. Sometimes only a mark on one and not the other. So if you have only one mark when you get it, that's, to be honest, that's all you can go by. I mean, you can't prove it really belonged to here. Like if it says 1 to 6, well then you better hope that the actual connecting rod is 1 to 6 as well. Alright, that's it. So continue on. So more high speed. Alright, so that's the engine pretty much stripped down. So the crank came out. I put these back in because when it goes to the machine shop, you need the main bearing holders, so the way it connects onto the block for them when it goes in. So they'll all wash this out and everything, so I won't go into it. Usually I like to clean it before it goes over. To be honest, they put it through a wash. So they get most of this crap off. It should come back. Well, it comes back machined, but clean, but like a rustiness to it, like a bit of oxidation on the outside. But that's after the wash anyway. So that's really it. I'm gonna wipe it. And the only other things, is there anything else to take off it? The only other thing to take out, what I could take off, is the oil plugs. It's pretty filthy. Dirty block to go over. But the oil plugs will come out, which are along here. We'll take them out. We'll take all the frost plugs out, so they'll get new ones in it as well. So they'll do that over there. They're pretty good. Other than that, that's it. We'll come back to the machine shop. We're going to get a board 40 over. And the reason why is, it doesn't need to be 40 over. No, it doesn't. I can measure this, and I know it's seeping oil, so it could be the pistons. It looks like I won't know till I skim the head of them if they're original or if they've been changed at some point. Everything looks pretty standard. It was standard bearings on the mains, standard bearings on the journal. The thrust washers were standard and they were pretty worn, so I reckon there was a lot of play in there. So we'll see when it comes back if we need to do it. I'm at odds and ends whether to send a crank out to get machined. It looks pretty... It doesn't look clean at all. So I know he wants to do it once, so I may just bite the bullet and send him a message and say if he wants to get it done. That way it's done. Otherwise I could clean it up, but I obviously have to measure it and see is there any scoring at all, because the bearings themselves were down to the copper. But if anything gets in there, like if dirt or crap gets in there, it scores. You'd be amazed how much the bearing takes the brunt, but when dirt gets in there, it's actually the crankshaft that actually bears it. It's a very soft metal, it really is. So I may just send that out and just get it machined. The machine cost for the whole lot probably run about somewhere between the cylinder to get the head done and the block board and the crankshaft done. Unfortunately, machine shop costs are going up. The last one came in was 1,200, and that was for the block and the head minus the crank. Unfortunately, it's what it is. Like it's you charge by the hour, and yeah, it doesn't make a difference whether you do 20 to 60. It's irrelevant for them, but it's just the cost per hour to do it. Plus, there's also, like, don't get me wrong, even if I cleaned all this and had a spotless going over, they're still going to wash it themselves anyway. They're going to machine it and they're going to wash it again, so they're charging for it anyway. So like, damned if you do and damned if you don't. So the machine cost for this is somewhere be around, let's say 1,500 maybe, thereabouts for the hopefully all the machine costs. And the reason why we're going 40 is, yes, I said I can measure these and you could be just within range or slightly over. The next standard is 20 tau up, but to be honest, I'm a fan of 40. You gain a bit of power in the engine. If you ever want to do an extra cam or upbeat, you'll get a bit more performance, but you also leave yourself more than enough room to machine it again. So if anything does ever go wrong, you need to go to 50 tau, you can go 50. If anything goes wrong and you can't get to 50, you should be able to get to 60. So in my mind, I don't go to 20, I jump to 40, because the next time you machine it, if it ever gets machined again in your lifetime, probably the only time. After that, then you can always get the cylinders or the sleeves put in. The machine shop does that as well. And then you're back to square one again. So it's not the end of the world. But it's really expensive just from the sheer time it takes to machine out and press in the fitting, the collar and all that jazz. So this thing is just dripping onto the floor. So I'm going to leave some cloths down for it to drip onto it. This is probably going to drip for a while. And the good thing about it is when he washes it, I'll send off the other parts as well. So I'll send off the sump to get that washed, because it's free and it's pretty oily. And if someone comes back, it's ready to basically ready to paint. Here's another thing I will not put back in is this, the front plate. As you can see, such a score. Like you wouldn't know. Like I don't know if you can see the depth on that. Like it's pretty deep. It's pretty deep. So I don't know what might have happened for it to be like scored in. I've never seen one like this. I've seen one with the marks, but I've never seen one like absolutely smashed into it. Like that's unbelievable. So like it's pretty, I don't know if I can get a good view of the thickness of it, like how deep it really is. Like I don't know if that will tell you. But it's deep. It's yeah, it's definitely deep. So this is going in the scrap pile, and because I wouldn't put this back in, and we'll replace it with another one. So just to bear in mind. Oh, sorry, on this now, there's another one as well. Watch out for the plates when you put it back in. Some have a single hole up here for your alternator. Some have two holes. So everything lines up different, because then the mounting bracket for the alternator is different as well. So just bear that in mind if you're taking it out and you are changing it. Which one was in it? Was it a single hole or was it the two-hole one? The rest of the plate is the same, but that can be different, because then you end up needing a different mount for it. And that can end up a whole different thing, because then you can end up with a different alternator that goes, instead of instead of swinging backwards, it then goes downwards. So just bear that in mind. So yeah, it's going to the scrap pile. That's it. That's really it. It's a pretty oily engine because, well, that's why it's here. It was all going through everywhere. So it really was quite the mess. Of course, during the midst of this, I I kicked the bucket with all the oil in it and woof. So yeah, I made quite the mess on the floor. I knew it was going to happen, and I said, "Oh, I'll pick it up before I hit it." And what did I do? I didn't do it, and I hit it. So yeah, bad on me. Remember that next time. But it's if that wasn't a mess, I would have made a mess with something else. I obviously didn't make a mess when I strip these things down. All right, that's it. So, like I said, just some oil plugs to go, like down here and across the channel at the back, the frost plugs and all that jazz. The only oil plug I don't take out is the one at the front. You can take it out. I do have new plugs for it, but they're odd. They're on a stick. I should show you, like there's 9 of them on a stick. And you screw it in, and when you screw it in, you grind off the end of it. And then you go to the next one. So it's funky. You don't just screw one in. You screw an entire stick in, and then you grind off the end of the stick. So it has treads, space. So it's funky how it works. But that's I don't know why it's like that. But you buy 9 of them, 9 of these on one big long stick, and only the end of it has the either an Allen key or something to actually turn it in with. So I try to avoid doing that. So that's the one I leave in. Other than that, all the rest of them I always replace. All right. So for the third time, I think that's it. Join me in the next part. Probably be a while because when this goes to the machine shop, we're pretty much at Christmas now, 2024. So I'd be surprised if this thing comes back to me by the end of January. Again, the machine shop, even though it's winter and you think it'd be a lot quicker, on average, if it was just a block, I might get it in 2 weeks, 2 to 3. But once I do the cylinder head and the block and with the crank gum, 4 to 8, maybe 12 weeks before I see it back. It's unfortunate, it is what it is. Like it's if the machine shop got back quick, it wouldn't be busy. If it's not busy, then it may not be a good machine shop. But I've never had a problem with them. It is what it is. I mean, and with Christmas, I expect to slow down, time off. Everyone takes holidays and all that. So, yeah, I think by the time we get back to this part 3, where I'll be rebuilding it, we'll probably be. I almost say it's going to be into February by the time I see this one. But I have another engine over here that I'm building now. That one is going to a car. I just actually got a car in. So here's another one that came. Actually, this is one of my previous builds. If anyone remembers this one, the one we done. Came back, due for service. Couple of things. It's not running right, which I'm going to figure out. It actually happened to on British Car Day. So, and it really smells like fuel. So I'm thinking that either a couple of things, maybe the fuel. There's too much fuel getting to the carbs. It didn't seem like it was running off all cylinders. So I have my suspicion it's actually the distributor cap or rotor that's worn down, but I'll check all them, and then I'm going to end up resetting the carburetors and making sure all the fuel line is connected. Maybe change some plumbing. I reuse a lot of his plumbing originally. I'll put some new stuff in there. Other than that, it's getting a new soft top. It already got a soft top, but unfortunately tried to heat it up and stretch it in the cold, and that didn't go down too well, and let's just say it's irreparable. So, oops. So he brought it back, and now I have to put a new soft top on it. So, but yeah, that's the thing. Getting said while I'm waiting for all the rest of the stuff. So yeah, still busy here. All right, so see you in part 3 in a couple of weeks. So again, thanks for watching. Any comments, questions, concerns, give me a shout. If you notice then I didn't cover or any information you want to throw in there that's helpful to anybody, by all means, throw it over there. Information is golden. We're all here to help, and it says knowledge is power, as you say. All right, see you in part 3.